Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today is Sunday, and what we have for Sunday, for the end of the week, we have a collection of changes and additions for 9.1.5 that we have left behind. We have left behind because they were bits and pieces, standalone bits and pieces, not really part of any greater changes. So instead, we have waited until we have gotten enough of them to now group up all together and go over in a single video. So for this type of video, we are going to start with the worst of the news, which is kind of funny because these two should be the better of the changes, the more relieving ones, especially for alts. Instead, they kind of make me a little bit more frustrated. The first one is the increased relic drops throughout Korthia in 9.1.5. So, as is usual, as a tradition from Blizzard, the new patch is going to bring up catch-up mechanisms for the content of the old patch, right? This is something we know already and happens every single time. So the addition in terms of catch-up mechanisms for Korthia is that Korthia rares now have a chance to drop relics on repeat kills, so you are no longer going to be capped on just killing one rare per day. You can re-kill it multiple times now. More relic carrying enemies can be found in Korthia with the all-seeing crystal, so the purple outlined mobs that you're gonna have to find to get extra relics, as well as the trained Gromit now is going to locate more relic caches. When it comes to the rifts, this is the more important of the changes. There's going to be a new weekly quest called Lost Research that will be available to characters at tier 4 with the Archivist Codex, which is going to direct players into the rift and rewards a large amount of rep. Essentially, it's going to reward 1,000 cataloged research and 800 rep. So it's 1,300 rep in total. What is also kind of interesting is that they added the addition of enemies in Korthian rifts now drop stolen relic fragments and a chance at relics. I always found it pretty confusing that you got to enter the rift, right? And the entire goal of the rift is to chase the 4 different caches, the 4 different chests, but at the same time, all of the enemies in the rift were completely useless. You had one rare you could find if you moved over to the bottom of the Mo, that was one, but then inside of Korthia itself, it was basically just dodging everything, skipping all of the mobs, and if you are quick, if you have a pretty nice route inside the rift, you can get all 4 caches in something like 4 minutes. Which is going to leave you over 10 minutes left inside the rift, and because the mobs don't really give you anything, you had no incentive, really, in even touching them. So it does look like there has been some decent catch-up. What I did want to see, however, when it came to Korthia was some more openness when it came to alt friendliness in terms of sharing of these type of catch-up mechanisms. For example, some kind of bind on account item that you could use to send to your alts to gain rep. Perhaps even make the rarer of the relics, like the blue ones or the purple relics, even make those bind on account so you can straight up send to your alts for faster reputation gain with the Archivist Codex in Korthia. We will have to see just exactly what these numbers are effectively. For example, the rares having a chance on rekill to give you more relics, or more relics carrying enemies can be found, or the enemies in Korthian rifts possibly dropping stolen relic fragments. As long as we don't have the actual total numbers, we can't be sure just how fast the process has been made compared to now. Now let's go over the other of the catch-up mechanisms. This one is relevant. The reason why it is relevant is because in 9.1.5 you will be able, one of the few great things that is going to last for a long time, because unfortunately the Legion Timewalking and the Mage Tower is only going to last for a couple of weeks. The thing that is going to remain from 9.1.5 is that you can play all of your Covenants, finally. One of the things that is bound to frustrate you, even though it's not going to give you too much character power, it's not going to hurt you or your characters, is going to be your followers. So being a Kyrian for the whole expansion, if you want to try out Night Fae or Necrolord or Ventir, you will have essentially barely any followers. The main issue is that you have spent weeks, if not months, to bring your followers up to level 30 and then 40 and then 50 and then ultimately up to level 60. So as 9.1.5 hits, you will be finding yourself juggling between multiple covenants with very, very few followers. So how do you gain them? And more importantly, how do you level them up? Is there any sort of catch-up mechanism that allows you to speed level these followers? We already know that you will be able, for example, to start the new covenants once you swap to them at renown level 40 already. And if you have completed the campaign with another alt, you will be able to skip the campaign entirely and gain all of the renown that you would have gained from the campaign. So there are quite a few ways for you to jumpstart your renown catch-up system in 9.1.5, but for followers, not really. So Blizzard came up with a solution. We know what to do if you want to quickly level up your followers in 9.1.5. What they did is adding in the PTR this item, the time-bound ruminations, which is going to give you 5,000 experience to a follower of your choice. So right now, from the follower missions and in some cases from emissaries and turn-ins, you can get the other types, the XP items that you can give to your followers. This one is 5,000. The issue at hand is that this piece, one might even say of shit, is costing 10,000 anima. Yeah, so at the very least, it's bind on account. So at the very least, you can juggle it around. Still, it's 10,000 anima for 5,000 experience. Now, to put things in perspective, if you were, for example, to move from Ventir to Recolored and you gain Emeni, one of your soulbinds, as your follower to use in missions, he's level 1. And if you wanted to level him up to level 60, just with this item, it would take you 790,000 anima. If you wanted to level all of your 20 non-shared followers, so except for the followers that are essentially player shared, no matter the covenant, it would take you 16 million anima. Even if you wanted to bring a follower to level 40, just level 40, it would take you 180,000 anima. This is what I meant when I made the video about why isn't Blizzard giving more rewards? Why isn't Blizzard giving easier ways to reach your goals? Why are you allowing people to play multiple covenants at the same time, but you leave behind these type of tedious, grindy systems like having to be stuck with absolute hobo followers for your missions for all of the covenants that you didn't play? There should be some much quicker ways of catching up with the level of those followers. As I said, sure, these followers don't really grant you power. It's not that your character is weaker if you have a bunch of shit followers that you can't use for good missions, sure, but it is still part of the game. It is still something that Blizzard wants you to use daily, because that's what the missions in the mission table can be a daily thing, so you would have an incentive in making it more enjoyable, or at the very least easier and simpler to use. Instead, we don't really have that. We do have decent catch-up mechanisms for renown to play different covenants. However, we don't have so far anything relevant when it comes to catching up with your followers, and this item is more annoying and frustrating than good, because nobody is legitimately going to use this to start leveling up their followers for 3 different covenants that they will be able to play in 9.1.5. So, good idea, necessary thing, unfortunately, so far, very bad execution. If the 10,000 anima cost were to be rolled back to just 1,000 anima cost, then it would start to be somewhat okay. You know, getting a follower from level 1 to level 40 would cost 18,000 anima. Okay, sure, it is still kind of high, but at the very least, for people who have kept playing the game and done anima rewarding activities, by this point they might have in the hundreds of thousands of anima, so this would allow them to jumpstart their mission table missions for the different covenants with at least 3 to 4 strong followers at the very least, but we are not even remotely close to reaching that point, because this item is costing 10,000 anima, which is embarrassing, I have to say. Now, outside of these 2 changes, we have other tiny additions planned for 9.1.5. One is to make the Mechagon achievement, so the achievement that you can do in Mechagon to get your mount, your Mechacycle model W. It has been made easier. This is because back then, if you even stayed in Mechagon all day, the RNG levels of this meta achievement were so high that it would have taken you over 3 months to even get this, and this was during current content. A lot of stuff essentially is RNG. You're not guaranteed to find it, and a lot of this stuff can come and can drop from daily things, which means sometimes these dailies aren't even available, and when they are available, you're not even guaranteed to get it, so it might take a while. 9.1.5 is going to rectify a whole bunch of these issues, making them either guaranteed drops or increasing the chance significantly for many of them. So whoever was still hunting or whoever gave up on hunting that mount in 9.1.5, it's going to be easier. This is another thing that I wish Blizzard did more, which is leaning on older content to give people something to do. There is no shame in using previous parts of your game to let people enjoy it, especially because not everyone has played all facets and all expansions and all patches of all expansions. So Mechagon was a pretty good mini zone added back in BFA. Some people missed it. There are some decent rewards in there. So if you make it easier to get those rewards, maybe you can entice people even now in Shadowlands to go back and complete the content. This is a decent change. Another thing, which is not a change, it is a straight up addition, is the Lightforged Runestrider, which is going to be the new Lightforged Draenei Paladin class mount in 9.1.5. So no change, no nothing. You're just going to get this for free if you're a Lightforged Draenei Paladin. Another thing that I found pretty funny, actually, is yet another nerf to Mythic Eonar. I think it was funny because this encounter has remained not unsolvable, but very difficult and very tough, especially near impossible for certain classes, for years, for a long time. And then, in quick succession in the past month or month and a half or so, when we started getting news and info of 9.1.5, Eonar has gotten nerfed multiple times. The encounter, that is. They made it so that it takes half the enemy kills, basically the filling up of the bar to make Eonar cast Life Force. It was cut in half, which effectively halved the duration of the encounter. You still had issues because Eonar is still as squishy as before, and if you don't complete the Paraxis mechanic, if you don't stop the cast in time, the encounter is still gonna fail. However, it has been made even easier now, especially for the slow moving classes, but generally easier for everyone because Surge of Life saw your massive leap in the air, gap closer to navigate the platforms in the encounter, is now on a 10-second cooldown instead of a 30-second cooldown. So it's literally 3 times as easy to use this ability now and navigate up and down the different platforms. I'm sure there are still people who will have trouble with the encounter. It is not still a straightforward, simple encounter, but now it's definitely doable, even if you are, for example, on a slow class like a Death Knight or even a Paladin, for example. The last addition as far as 9.1.5 is concerned is the final tidying up of the Legion Timewalking Mage Tower armor sets. That was a mouthful, but we have got all the sets ready to be released in 9.1.5 for the Mage Tower. The only thing that is missing at this point is the Mage Tower itself. It's the last of the things that has been left for testing on the PTR. The Legion Mythic Plus dungeons have been out, all of the other changes have been available, including the Covenant swapping, etc, etc. The only thing that we haven't seen for the moment are the challenges. Honestly, this is also another thing I am a good fan of, which is reusing older content to create new content, essentially, because armor sets are cool, and sometimes because we don't have armor tints, we don't have color tints in this game, it is pretty simple to create new interest in an entire different armor set, in an entire different cosmetic transmog set, just by recoloring its tints. Of course, it's lazy. Of course, you could have tints in the game, made them droppable and lootable, made them chase items, have people complete content so they can find all of their tints of the colors they want. But since it's not in the game, adding the entire set as a recolor for a different activity or for a certain activity is a good way to entice people to do the content. As I said before, unfortunately, in this case, this is sort of, let's just say, muddled by the fact that people wanted artifact appearances. So sure, they would have been happy with the armor recolors, but when they see the armor recolor, the first thing that pops in their mind is, this could have been an artifact appearance. Damn. So there is some type of bittersweet feeling around these armor recolors, but on their own, not counting the lack of the artifact appearances, they are a good addition and a good reward in the game. Another great thing that can push you to play other characters that you have left behind for ages, because you can get this entire armor set now. The last of the things, which, as I pointed out, wasn't going to be about 9.1.5, is the announcement of the MDI dungeons and the affix combinations that are going to be used for the MDI. That's going to happen in almost a couple of weeks, from the 29th through the 31st of October. 8 different dungeons, 4 fortified, 4 tyrannical, varying and ranging from a 20 level to a 23 level. In a completely non-surprising way, the other side and Theater of Pain have been left at a +20, whereas keys like Necrotic Wake and Mists have been upped all the way up to a +23. Makes sense. The easier ones are being put at a higher key level and the harder ones are being put at a lower key level. All the affixes made it in this combination. We do have a double of Spiteful as well as a double of Bursting and Quaking and Storming. I think this is cool because these are amongst the easier of the affixes, so they haven't doubled down on bolstering, they haven't doubled down on necrotic, they haven't doubled down on inspiring. These are dungeon slowing type of affixes. Instead, they added doubles of affixes that are not really going to slow these players down, like bursting and spiteful and storming, so it's pretty good for, at the very least, for entertainment. Not that there were too many doubts at this point, but the fact that the MDI is going to happen on the 29th through the 31st of October is going to pretty much confirm that at the very earliest 9.1.5 is going to be released on the 2nd or 3rd of November. So basically not before the end of the MDI. So I thought between the last week of October and the first week of November. Now it's more likely that it's going to be between the first and second week of November. Now with that being said, we will have to wait for the actual tournament to come in. For the time being, we can stop here. Thank you guys, as usual, for watching the video. If you have enjoyed the content and want to support the channel, you can leave a like to this video, comment down below, particularly about how do you feel regarding these catch-up changes, additions to both Korthia and the follower experience catch-up with Anima. I know, it's a pretty rhetoric question, at the very least when it comes to the follower one. For Korthia, I'm not too sure. People are still gonna want or have the will to go back to Korthia, even with these catch-up systems, but hey, maybe some of you will. Either way, let me know. And then of course, for last, if you got permission from your parents, you can subscribe to the channel as well. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, I have a problem. What do you do when you are cold with one pair of socks? You put on a second pair of socks and you're still cold.